It's not a bird, it's not a plane, and it sure as hell isn't Superman either.
Before we begin, be sure to subscribe to MojoPlays and click on the links in the description to vote on upcoming content.
Normally, we would use this time to define the criteria of this video, to cross-reference other possible contenders, set the stage, etc. But let's face it, there's no competition here. Titus Software had the ambitious goal of creating a game where the player really felt like a superhero. And they had to do it with the Man of Steel, the most overpowered comic book superhero of all time. Even to this day, Soup's best video game outing is the Injustice Fighting series. Great games, but definitely not Superman games exclusively. Back in the 1990s, there were already a good few superhero games out there, but Titus decided that they'd break new ground in the exciting realm of 3D graphics. They wanted gamers to experience Superman's abilities firsthand while exploring an open metropolis, taking to the skies and facing off against iconic villains in the ongoing pursuit of truth and justice. However, Titus wasn't ready for the most dastardly villains of all, DC and Warner Brothers. Working with the licensors proved to be kind of a nightmare, as they not only wanted to limit Superman's powers, but they didn't really want him to hit people. Combined with the limitations of the Nintendo 64, this led to kind of a disaster of a game. Well, we suppose technically Titus's plans did make it into the final game. It just feels like you're playing a version of Superman that's having a bad trip on Kryptonite. I mean, everyone knows about the rings, right? Every time this game comes up, the thing most people talk about is how clunky and broken the first level's flying sections are. In fact, that's just about all that everyone knows about this game. Superman 64? Yeah, the controls suck and you fly through rings. But oh my friends, it goes so much deeper. This might sound a little crazy and a little blasphemous, but bear with us here. Compared to the rest of the game, the rings actually aren't that bad. I mean, they're very bad, don't get me wrong. They're awful, unforgivable. But this stupid, broken, ugly, clunky ring shit, that is a joy compared to what follows. Yeah, trying to make Superman fly quickly and with any fluidity feels like controlling a remote-controlled paper airplane. And the arbitrary and unfair time limit is almost game-breaking. But you know what? In researching this video, we actually got pretty darn good at it. Yeah, initially it seemed impossible and there were a lot of failures. But you mess up and boom, you're back in the first ring. Once you adjust yourself to the brokenness of the flying, it actually starts to make some sort of bizarro sense, like when you get used to a bad smell and you just stop noticing it. Then there are, of course, the stupid little challenges that come after each section of rings. These, if you can believe it, are where the real rot of this game begins to poke through. You fly through the last ring, and the game quickly fades to black before fading back in with an instruction on your screen that comes and goes too fast to read, and very few seconds to act. In one section, you might need to save a woman with a baby from runaway cars. Another, it's defeating some thugs, etc. This is where failure just becomes a way of life, but not in that fun, rewarding Super Meat Boy or Dark Souls kind of way. The hardest one is actually the one that should have been easiest on paper. Fly up to these tornadoes and blow them with Superman's super breath. Seriously, the time kept running out and we failed this like a dozen times before the game finally let us succeed. Just doing a thing, like anything, like taking off, landing, punching, using a superpower, turning a fucking round, anything you succeed at feels like you just won a dice roll. Then there's the visuals, specifically Metropolis, a murky MS Paint motif, undefinable character models, and very repetitive music. Whole thing's a mess, simply put. With too many executive hands in the soup and a studio that had bitten off way more than it could chew. Executive meddling sucks, right? But Titus can't blame everything on poor decisions. Getting past the rings and realizing that the worst is still yet to come kinda broke us. You thought flying around Metropolis was bad? You thought the controls were hard to deal with? Wait till you're inside, sucka. This right here, what you're seeing right now, this is inexcusable for any console in any time period, and Titus just can't point the finger at DC and Warner Brothers here. Now, here we are, running around dark, narrow corridors and cramped rooms, not knowing where to go, what to do, barely able to turn around, let alone fight anything, and we're just praying for the game to let us go back and fly through the stupid rings again. Like, there are these stupid flying robots, and don't think you can punch them, no sir, because they blow up in your face and you'll just kill yourself. You need to pick them up and throw them. Throw them far enough so that you don't get hurt by the explosion. Why does Superman get hurt by the explosion? Shut up and don't ask questions. Like, every single step in this game is an obstacle, but for the wrong reasons. As I've said before, if you want to do something, the game decides for itself, kind of arbitrarily, whether or not to let you do it. If you do manage to make it to the tail end of this dam section, for instance, you find the game's first boss, Mala, a villain from the comic books, apparently, who made it into the animated series that this game is based on. Every single time we tried to fight her and her robot minions was a circus of failure, and the whole time we were just screaming, "I'm supposed to be Superman!" at the screen. We got past her once, and then this happened. And that was basically it. That's all we could take. Here lies the true tragedy of this game. Nothing about it feels like Superman. Hell, nothing about it feels even remotely heroic. As soon as the game starts, you're told to do these tasks, and that's it. There's no story build-up, no attachment to the friends you're supposed to save, no contempt for the villain who captured them. It's like they assumed that we already knew the lore, so what's the point of putting any effort into how it was presented? You read the comics, right? You watched a few movies, or you seen the cartoon it's obviously based on? So why create a universe for the game beyond Lex bad, save friends, f*** you? You know how you look back at older games and kinda wince when they haven't held up over time? That was Superman 64 the day it was released. This game goes beyond disappointing, beyond broken. It's not some sort of unfinished rush-to-market title. The game feels like it was intentionally pushing the envelope of bad, digging a hole in the ground just to lower the bar as far as they could take it. We knew this game was terrible, but we were so wholly unprepared for how terrible an experience it was. Seriously, we don't even think it's going to come across in the footage from this video without you actually trying it, but trust us, don't. This is, and honestly probably always will be, the worst superhero thing of all time. Thanks for watching MojoPlays. Be sure to subscribe and click on the link in the description below to check out our suggestion page and vote on what content you'd like to see us cover next.